Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
So today's episode is brought to you by a question from one of our listeners, from our podcast listeners. Gunnar asked, what are your early conference power rankings for 2022? So decided to make that into a YouTube episode here. Trey, get us started with number 10, the worst conference.
Unfortunately, at number 10, it's one of my favorites, the MAC. In years past, they would definitely be up probably a couple notches, but doesn't look to be an overly promising year. This conference historically, someone new wins it almost every year, and that could be the case next season. Toledo looks to be like the best returning team, but Coach Candle hasn't really lived up to expectations in recent years. And after that, it seems like there's a pretty big drop-off. SP Plus would have the second best team at number 80, Miami of Ohio, followed by Central Michigan. So they have some catching up to do.
Yeah, it's a dealer's choice there. Who knows? All right, let's move ahead to number 9. We got Conference USA. This conference is a bit in flux, but we'll see how it kind of shapes up going into this year. But in the West, you got some decent squads like UAB. Bill Clark's done a good job there. A couple of Texas schools had a good years, UTEP and UTSA. Louisiana Tech's usually solid. So, and you got Sonny Cumbie coming in. And then you got teams with potential like Charlotte, Florida Atlantic also in there. So, Western Kentucky had a good year. Yeah, it's maybe not an elite conference, but it's got some fun teams and some interesting teams.
Okay, number 8 on the list is the Sun Belt, who, of course, has had a very good run lately, but a lot of their top teams could take a step back this upcoming year. Coastal, of course, they get Grayson McCall back, which is huge, but they lose pretty much everyone else. They lose a ton of production, so hard to not see them taking a step back. Louisiana, of course, loses Billy Napier. He brought some transfers with him, so they lose a ton as well. And App State is 92nd in returning production. They're actually the best of that bunch in terms of what they're bringing back. So might be a little bit of a down year, but will be fun because it'll be probably more competitive. I think it's more wide open this year than in years past.
Number 7, we have the Mountain West. I think there's a good spot. Tough to argue here. Fresno State should be pretty good. Jeff Tetford coming back and quarterback Hainer. San Diego State usually pretty solid, but they need to improve that on the offense some more. Boise's usually the king. And they should be one of the favorites this season, but they just haven't quite been the Boise of old to kind of push this conference even higher. Air Force has been productive the last couple years for Coach Calhoun. Overall, the Mountain West is a solid conference. Utah State won it last year, but they lose a lot of production. Yeah. They're going to be hard to predict, but Blake Anderson's a very good coach. So I always love watching the Mountain West.
Yep, no doubt. All right, moving on to the top G5 conference. We got the AAC at number 6 here. Last season, most likely, it's the last season for some of these squads that are heading to different conferences. So you got UCF, Cincy, and Houston specifically. They're heading over to the Big 12. So AAC is going to take a little bit of a drop after this one, but this year it makes for the strongest G5 conference for sure. SMU is also another strong team outside of those. But then you got throw in Memphis, Tulsa, East Carolina had a solid year last year. Navy you never know when they're going to have a bounce back good year. Sometimes it's when you least expect it. So clearly the top G5 conference would be AAC.
All right, now we get into the Power 5, and number 5 is maybe unsurprisingly the Pac-12, the way the last few years have gone for them. Utah should be good. They're typically always solid, but after them, there's a lot of question marks. USC, of course, gets Lincoln Riley, brings in Caleb Williams and some good transfers, but they were 4-8 last year, and the defense is still very suspect, so who knows how good they'll be. Oregon has a lot of talent, but question mark at quarterback with Bo Nix, the favorite to be the starter there, and just a new coaching staff, so that is maybe a team in transition. It's just kind of as usual, the Pac-12. I think it's close with these next couple conferences, but I'm comfortable with them at number 5.
Me too. Number 4 is the Big 12, and I'll say it right now. You could easily make the case for them to be number 3. I think it's splitting hairs personally. I think what maybe drops them to number 4 is just kind of the unknown of Oklahoma. They're not going to fall off a cliff, but maybe not cream of the crop as we're accustomed to seeing. Obviously with the coaching transition. Texas needs to improve, but they definitely could with their talent. Oklahoma State and Baylor, they were the representatives of the Big 12 title. They overachieved, and they do lose some pieces, but they should still be pretty solid this upcoming year. It's really going to come down to the other schools. Like if Kansas State, Texas Tech, TCU, if those schools can kind of bounce back, they could easily jump to number 3 by year's end.
That they could. And at number 3, we have the ACC. This conference it's pretty equitable. There's some depth there. Not many teams are just flat out terrible. Maybe, like Duke might be a pretty bad team. Georgia Tech hasn't been very good. Syracuse, generally hasn't been that great, but those are probably maybe the worst 3 as of now, but Virginia might take a little bit of a dive after losing some pieces in their coach, Bronco Mendenhall. But other than that, Clemson, if they can get back to being a top 5 team again, you'd think they'd probably be a little bit better than they were last year. But then some of the up-and-coming squads are squads that had good years last year. NC State returns a lot. They should be pretty good. Wake Forest, of course, with Sam Hartman. Miami with Cristobal. It's an exciting time for them. They could make a kind of a turnaround here. North Carolina's got a lot of talent. Can Mac Brown kind of prove it on the field? Pitt, can they back it up a back-to-back good years? BC and Louisville have promise. So there's a lot of contenders. I just don't know if there's any potential for super elite teams, but it's a relatively balanced league.
Yep. Now we take a bit of a jump up to number 2. Number 2 and number 1 are pretty clear. They have been for several years running. We got the Big Ten, and they've got Ohio State, who is going to be on everyone's, at worst, they're going to be 3rd if you're making your power rankings for next year and possibly higher. You've got Wisconsin, or of course Michigan, still going to be very good. You got Wisconsin and Penn State, going to have great defenses. We'll see if their offenses can take steps forward. And then the conference is just really deep. There's very, very few bad teams because Michigan State, Iowa, Minnesota, Purdue, Nebraska, Maryland, all of those teams should at least be pretty good. So very deep conference.
Yeah, not many bad ones.
And at number 1, the Independents. No, SEC. Oh, it's just a slam dunk. The national title just pitted the top 2 teams from the SEC, Alabama and Georgia. They're not going away. The conference is just so deep. A&M has been loading up on talent. Brian Kelly is a new face at LSU. Lane has turned Ole Miss into a solid program. Tennessee showed some progress under Josh Heupel. They could be vying for number 2 in the East this year. Kentucky has been good. Arkansas has improved. Leach has settled in. You can go on and on. Auburn's an unknown
even mentioned
with
Florida.
Larson, but did I not even? Yeah, Florida's there. Exactly. It's just insane. They're obviously the people say there's bias, but they're the best. They have it all right now.
They are
all right.
best.
That'll do it for this episode of the College Football Bros. Let us know in the comments below any disagreements you have, any swaps you would make on our list. It's so early in the offseason that, maybe as we dig deeper into some of these teams, our opinions will change. But it's fun to do this here, still several months away from the season. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you like college football. We're here all off season. And of course, during the season, we'll have tons of episodes. So thanks for watching. See you next time.
You've been watching the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and in your podcast app for college football content all year round. For bonus episodes and access to our Discord chat, join our Patreon at patreon.com/collegefootballbros. Thanks for watching.